Justin Gaethje didn't win this fight by accident, and it wasn't power that decided it. It was a decision he made early, one that completely removed Paddy Pimblett's biggest weapon without ever needing to go to the ground. What looks like chaos on the surface was actually one of the clearest, most disciplined game plans of Gaethje's career, and his own explanation reveals why this fight was effectively decided long before the final bell. And once you hear how Gaethje broke it down afterward, the entire matchup starts to make a lot more sense. The question everyone had. After UFC 324, one question kept coming up among fans and analysts alike. Why didn't Justin Gaethje grapple more? Against a fighter known primarily for submissions, it seemed logical, at least on paper, to expect clinches, takedowns, or extended ground exchanges. Instead, Gaethje did the opposite. He stayed upright, pressured relentlessly, and refused to play Paddy Pimblett's game. That question eventually reached Gaethje directly during Super Bowl week, when he crossed paths with Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson at a celebrity sweat flag football event. And Johnson didn't soften it. He asked directly why Gaethje didn't grapple. Gaethje's response revealed everything. I had to win. Gaethje didn't deny the premise. He challenged it. According to Gaethje, he did grapple, just not in the way people expected. He repeatedly used front headlocks, positional control, and defensive engagement, but never committed to situations where the risk outweighed the reward. In his own words, the approach wasn't about dominance. It was about safety. Gaethje openly acknowledged what many fighters avoid admitting, that certain grappling positions simply don't work for him. Not because of lack of effort, but because of consistent technical issues he's identified over years of competition. He explained that every time he inserts hooks on the ground, he tends to ride too high. That leads to lost position. Lost position leads to scrambles. And scrambles, against a submission specialist, create unnecessary danger. From Gaethje's perspective, there was no strategic upside. He wasn't chasing style points. He was chasing a win. A rare moment of self-awareness in MMA. This honesty matters more than it seems. Many fighters talk about being well-rounded, but elite fighters understand their limitations just as clearly as their strengths. Gaethje's entire career has been built on knowing exactly where he's most effective and refusing to abandon that identity under pressure. Rather than forcing himself into unfamiliar territory, he built a plan around controlled aggression. Pressure forward, deny space, limit entries, force mistakes on the feet. That plan required discipline, especially against a fighter who thrives when opponents overcommit. Why Paddy Pimblett couldn't shoot. This is where Gaethje's breakdown gets particularly interesting. When Demetrius Johnson flipped the question, asking why Pimblett didn't grapple more, Gaethje's answer was simple: because he couldn't. Gaethje explained that takedowns don't exist in isolation. They depend on balance, positioning, and momentum. Pimblett, according to Gaethje, was moving backward almost the entire fight, and shooting while retreating is fundamentally flawed. Gaethje described how he consistently forced Pimblett onto the back foot, removing the ability to set up clean entries. Without forward pressure, Pimblett was limited to a single takedown option, a basic double-leg attempt that requires timing and distance. Once Gaethje recognized that limitation, the fight shifted. He no longer needed to worry about surprise entries. The puzzle had been solved. The kicking exchange and the adjustment. Early in the fight, Pimblett attempted to disrupt Gaethje's pressure with kicks. That strategy didn't last long. Gaethje noted that once he realized the kicks weren't stopping his forward movement, the risk calculation changed. He could absorb them, maintain pressure, and continue to dictate positioning. That realization matters because it allowed Gaethje to simplify the fight even further. Instead of reacting, he imposed. Instead of guessing, he advanced. From that point forward, the margin for Pimblett shrank dramatically. The importance of direction control. One of the most overlooked aspects of striking heavy fights is directional control. Gaethje didn't just move forward, he moved with intent. Every step forced Pimblett into narrower lanes. Every exchange ended with Pimblett resetting while Gaethje remained planted. This kind of pressure doesn't always show up in highlight reels, but it breaks opponents over time. It limits creativity. It removes confidence. And most importantly, it prevents grapplers from building momentum. By controlling direction, Gaethje controlled the fight. Credit where it's due. Despite the criticism, Gaethje didn't dismiss Pimblett entirely. In fact, he gave him credit for something many fighters wouldn't: durability. Gaethje openly admitted that he was surprised Pimblett never went down. The damage accumulated. The pressure never stopped. Yet Pimblett stayed conscious and competitive throughout. That resilience earned respect, even in defeat. And that matters, because it reframes the fight not as a mismatch, but as a strategic win. Why this fight was a statement, not a fluke. This wasn't just about beating Paddy Pimblett. It was about showing evolution. Earlier in his career, Gaethje was often defined by chaos, trading recklessly, trusting his chin, and pushing limits. This version was different. Measured, calculated, purposeful. He didn't abandon aggression. He refined it. And that refinement is exactly why his name is now being mentioned in much bigger conversations. What comes next? The bigger picture. During Super Bowl week media availability, Gaethje made his expectations clear. He's not looking sideways. He's looking up. Specifically, toward a potential unification bout against Ilia Topuria, rumored for a high-profile June card at the White House. That matchup presents an entirely different challenge. Topuria brings a more complete offensive arsenal, sharper boxing, stronger positional grappling, and a higher finishing rate against elite opposition. The tools that worked against Pimblett won't automatically translate, which raises the real question: can this version of Gaethje scale up? Against Pimblett, discipline was enough. Against Topuria, it may require perfection. Trevor Whitman's game planning will matter more than ever. Distance management, defensive responsibility, and selective aggression will have to reach another level. But if UFC 324 showed anything, it's that Gaethje is no longer relying on instinct alone. He's thinking several steps ahead. And that evolution might be the most dangerous development in the division. Justin Gaethje's win at UFC 324 wasn't just about power or toughness. It was about restraint, about understanding risk, and about choosing the smartest path to victory, even when it isn't the loudest one. As the lightweight division continues to shift, the real story isn't just who hits hardest, it's who adapts fastest. And with a potential unification fight on the horizon, the next chapter may reveal whether discipline can overcome raw firepower at the very top of the sport. If you want to understand how elite fighters evolve and what separates contenders from champions, the next breakdown goes even deeper into what that matchup could look like.